Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is Thursday, April the 23rd, 2026. So I hope everybody's had a good week this week. Of course, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Um, so, again, friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. HR, puff and snuff. When you know that you get rough. Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition with the greatest escape ever known. High on the mountains, coming down, 1,000 feet below. In the land of the law, in the land of the lost. Anyways, let's see. So 2 minutes, one more minute before we'll start talking about. Actually, I'm gonna go off camera here for a moment. Take care of something real quick. I'm gone, of course. You guys can. I'll put some music on for you. On. All right. Well, we're at 3.5 minutes now, so I guess it's a good time to start talking about what's on top of it. So for tonight, so for those of us who grew up in the 70s, right? For some of you out there who grew up in the 70s, now I more grew up in the latter part. I grew up more in the 80s myself, but I would also see some of these shows in in reruns. So for those who grew up in the late 60s and 70s, the names Sid and Marty Krofft should mean something to you. Sid and Marty Krofft gave us such Saturday morning classics as, of course, HR Puff and Snuff, Land of the Lost, Lidsville, Bugaloos, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, Electra Girl, or Electric Woman, and Dinah Girl, among many others. Well, I myself just found out about this earlier today from Dave Sundstrom, who's another nostalgia guy, more for classic television as a whole. But Sid Krofft of the famous Krofft brothers, Sid and Marty Krofft, passed away at the age of 96 2 weeks ago tomorrow, back on April 10th. So tonight, I think it'd be a good idea to, as part to, give our condolences to Sid Krofft himself, and also to look back for those who grew up in the 70s and grew up with a lot of Sid and Marty Krofft shows and the Krofft Super Show and all that. Take a look back at their careers, and um, and just look back at the impact they may have had on Saturday morning TV back in the 70s. Then from there we will of course get caught up on all the latest in the world of pro wrestling. Look back to last night's AEW Dynamite, maybe even look into Evolve from WWE, as well as looking ahead to tonight's TNA Impact, as of course now over the next few weeks here, of course, WWE will of course be building towards Backlash, which will be in about 2.5 weeks now on May 9th. AEW will be building up, has been trying to build up towards Double or Nothing coming up May 24th, and then TNA will be building up towards their summer event. I believe it's Slammiversary, but with that being said, of course, and I'm gonna and then of course we'll wrap up with this day in each history. I'm gonna go off camera one more time here, and then we will. When I come back, we will get started on the material here. So just be right back here. Alrighty then. So, with all that being said, now, so now we're gonna get into, of course, our material for the evening. As I mentioned, we're gonna look back the life and careers of Sid and Marty Krofft, as Sid himself just passed away at the age of 96, as I said, back on April 10th, which is about a little under 2 weeks. Tomorrow will be exactly 2 weeks since his passing. So, and again, a reminder to everybody, for those of you who don't know, for those who may have grown up in the 70s, of course, late 60s and 70s, Sid and Marty Krofft were one of the staples of Saturday morning, which said shit as HR Puff and Snuff, Land of the Lost, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, Lidsville, Bugaloos, all that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the life and career of Sid and Marty Krofft. Let's first off look at the basic information on the right here before we. So basically known collectively as the Krofft brothers, occupations: television creators, television and film producers, writers, puppeteers. Notable works include The Banana Splits, Adventure Hour, HR Puff and Snuff, Land of the Lost, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Sid Krofft, let's see. Well, actually, we'll just go back and read the whole thing, because basically it'd just be redundant if I just read that part. Anyways, the Krofft brothers were Sid Krofft, born July 30th, 1929, passed away April 10th, 2026. As I said, just about 2 weeks ago, the age of 96. And Marty Krofft, born April 9th, 19. So it's kind of funny. Sid died a day after what would have been would have been Marty's 89th birthday. Wow, so very interesting there. So Marty, born April 9, 1937, passed away November 25th, 2023, obviously at the age of 86 there. A Canadian sibling team of television creators, writers, and puppeteers, born as Sidus and Mosho Populus Iolus. So I'm guessing they're of Greek descent, to say the least. No wonder they had to go to Santa Marty. Could you imagine? Could you imagine having? Can you imagine that for a moment? Sidus and Mosho Iolus Productions. Yeah, it doesn't quite ring the same as Sid and Marty Krofft, to say the least. Through their production company, Sid and Marty Krofft Pictures, they made numerous children's television variety show programs in the U.S., particularly in the 1970s, including H.R. Pufnsnuff, Land of the Lost, and Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Their fantasy programs often featured large-headed, high-concept plots and extensive use of low-budget special effects. Now, of course, I do know that Walker Edmondson, who would later go on to voice Inferno and Transformer in the Transformers cartoon in the 80s, or the G1 cartoon, as well as the Wizard in the Spider-Man the Spider-Man the animated series arc about the about Captain America and the secret, not the Secret Six, but and the Golden Age era. Provided the voice of H.R. Pufnsnuff. So early years. The Krofft brothers were both born in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Sidus Iolus was born on July 30, 1929. That's Sid Krofft right there. And Mosho Populus Iolus was born on April 9th, 1937. That was Marty Krofft. So they were of Greek and Hungarian descent. Okay, as we figured. I think Greek was in there somewhere, just based on the Mosho Populus name. For years, they claimed to have been the fifth generation of puppeteers in their family, but they revealed in 2008 that the story had been invented by a publicist in the 1940s. Their father, Peter, was a clock salesman who moved from Canada to Providence, Rhode Island, and then to New York City. Careers. The early years of their careers. And again, friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. As we get ready to continue on here. So career's early years. Sid Krofft became a popular puppeteer who worked in vaudeville and was a featured player with the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. In the 1940s, Sid created a one-man puppet show, regularly performed at burlesque shows as a teenager. A nightclub promoter from the Catskills was convinced by Sid to create a show he named from the name Sidney Snitskovsk. Sid added an extra F due to the short length to the unusual artistry of Sid Croft. All right, so that's very Sydney Snitkovska. That began to be performed throughout the world. His father joined him on tour in Paris, while Marty stayed in New York, where he began using his older brother's puppets to earn money by staging performances. By the 1950s, the Croft brothers were working together in 1957. So 1957, that would have been, so 57 minus 29. So Sid would have been about 28, while Marty would have been about 20. 27 going on 28. 1920 there. They developed Les Poupées de Paris, a puppet show with more mature themes. So 28 and 20-year-old doing mature puppet themes, all right? One of their early exposures to a television audience was the premiere episode of the Dean Martin Show in 1965. So if we're thinking that most the way television schedules were set up, usually the start of most seasons would be in the fall. So we're thinking the fall of 1965. That would probably meant that both brothers would have had their birthdays by then. So let's see. Sid would have been 36, I believe, while Marty would have been 28, 36 and 28 respectively, at that point. And here's Marty Croft in 1962, picture at the far right there. So here's Marty Croft. And for those who just may have came in and wondering what we're talking about here, of course, couple weeks ago, back on April 10th, Sid Croft of the Croft brothers passed away at the age of 96. The Croft brothers were basically a pair of brothers, puppeteers and television creators. They were behind, of course, some pretty popular Saturday morning kids shows back in the 70s, including, of course, HR Puff and Snuff, late 60s into the 70s, including like HR Puff and Snuff, Banana Splits, Adventure Hour, Land of the Lost, Lidsville, Bugaloos, Sigma and the Sea Monsters, that kind of stretch. So just to get those who just came in caught up on what we're talking about here, that's basically what we're talking about. So with that being said, of course, let's get back to the article here. So television productions. After designing characters and sets for Hanna-Barbera's The Banana Splits, which ran on NBC from 1968 to 1970, the Crofts' producing career began in 1969 with the landmark children's television series H.R. Puff and Snuff. H.R. Puff and Snuff. So H.R. Puff, of course, the title character was voiced by Walker Edmondson, who went on, as I said earlier, to voice Inferno in the G1 Transformers cartoon, as well as Whizzer in the Spider-Man the Animated Series. The series introduced the team's trademark style of large-scale, colorful design, puppetry, and special effects, featuring a boy who has been lured into an alternate fantasy world and can never escape. The team also established a storytelling formula to which they would often return. Some people suggested that the Croft brothers were influenced by marijuana and LSD, the portmanteau of H.R. Puffin Snuff being considered by some to be a dead giveaway. Puffin Snuff. You know, right? um, and I could see that point too. You remember some of the counterculture stuff, just how colorful their shows were. And I guess another story for another day, as it were. Anyways, getting back to the although they always denied these claims, in a 2005 interview with USA Today, Marty Krofft said, quote, "No drugs involved. You can't do drugs when you're making shows. Maybe after, but not during. We're bizarre, that's all," unquote. Referring to the alleged LSD use, Marty said in another interview, quote, "That was our look. That was our look. Those were the colors. Everything we did had vivid colors. But there was no acid involved. That scared me. I'm no goody two shoes, but you can't create this stuff stoned." So there you go. You have somebody who actually acknowledges that doing marijuana, would actually stunt your creativity and maybe stunt your brain a little bit. The Crofts favored quirky superhero stories, often with children portraying the heroes or part of a hero team. Crop productions include The Bugaloos, which came out in 1970, Lidsville, 1970. Of course, Lidsville was basically they had the setting where somebody the I guess lead character got sent to a alternate world that was inhabited by anthropomorphic cats, as it were. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, which ran from 1973 to 1975. Land of the Lost, 1974 to 76. Sure, many of us remember that one. The Lost Saucer, 1975. Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, 1976. And Wonder Bug, 1976-78. The World of Sid and Marty Krofft. In 1976, a developer asked the Crofts to develop an indoor amusement park for the new Omni International Complex downtown Atlanta. The park, the World of Sid and Marty Krofft, closed after 6 months due to poor attendance. Yeah, I'm sure some parents, I'm sure there were probably some parents out there that were maybe a little scared because Sid and Marty Krofft's creations were very colorful, and again, a lot of people thought that it reminded them of like a lot of the stuff that Sid and Marty Krofft did. As we just talked about, a lot of those shows were pretty surreal, right? A lot of those shows were pretty surreal. I know that when Dave Sundstrom talked about it, when I saw that video earlier today from him, he was talking about how the show with the term monster in it actually was the tamest of all the shows, at least in his opinion. So, yeah. So, anyway, as we of course continue on now here, let's see. The Omni International building that contained it was renamed the CNN Center, and the site was converted to the CNN headquarters. CNN, for those of you who don't, well, sure, everybody knows what CNN is. They call themselves the cable news network, but I know Trump, among other people, has called it the Clinton News Network or corrupt news network, but that's another story for another day. Achievements. Achievements. The Crofts children's programs have developed a wide and enduring following, especially among adults who watch the shows as children. Now, mind you, they were most of these shows were already in syndication by the time I was watching them. I remember, I would, they show up on occasions part of the, before and after school lineups, um, during the weekdays. So they were also responsible for a large number of primetime music and variety programs. These shows also tended to employ a reliable formula featuring a celebrity host or team of hosts, weekly celebrity guest performers, flashy and colorful sets, frequent interludes of scripted banter, and gag driven, corny, quote unquote, good natured sketch comedy. I'm thinking like the Brady Variety Hour. Um, that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But the Crofts are often acknowledged for the vision and creativity of their projects. In addition to their colorful and hyperkinetic programs, they often created children's shows with complex stories, unusual protagonists, and uniquely modern sensibilities, or with darker or more action themed tones than most children's shows. Their quote unquote camp popularity stems largely from their show's low budget production values. The often surrealistic feel um, of many of the programs and the uniquely 70s style of music and design. I do, as I said, I do know that when Dave Sunstrom was talking about it earlier, when I watched his video on it earlier, he was talking about how I think he said it was for the Bugaloos, the music is what caught attention on that show. Um, let's see now. And if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the screen, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So as we continue on now, later years. Later years for Sid and Marty Krofft. So the Crofts occasionally departed from their formula while making new programs, such as Pryor's Place in 1984, and the political puppet satire show DC Follies, 1987. They attempted to update some of their classic series for a younger generation, including new versions of Land of the Lost. Yeah, I remember that one too. That series came out in 1991. Electro Woman and Dinah Girl, H.R. Pufnsnuff, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. A new original series, Mutt and Stuff, aired on Nickelodeon from 2015 to 2017. In May 2022, the Crofts participated in the first CroftCon, a convention held in Orinda, California, where they were joined by some of the actors from the television series, those at least who would remain. I know some of the more well-known actors that were on the shows, like I think Walker Edmondson has since passed away. Rip Torn, I believe, is passed on. As for many of the other, like even the younger cast. Well, okay, so the younger cast members who would still be alive, but they'd be probably like in their 70s or 80s, I would think. But So then dispute. In January 2023, Sid and Marty and the Croft Companies I'm sorry. In January 2023, Sid sued Marty and the Croft Companies for allegedly being delinquent in paying nearly $500,000 owed to Sid as part of a buyout of his business interests. Personal lives and deaths. Marty Croft died from kidney failure in Los Angeles on November 25th, 2023 at the age of 86. Sid Croft died at the home of a friend in Los Angeles on April 10th, 2026 at the age of 96. And then some of the honors and awards, of course, included Hollywood Walk of Fame for television in 2020. Let's see. Well, the first award they got was the Saturn Award Life Career Award at the 29th Saturn Awards, Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films back in 2002. 2009, at the TV Land Icon Awards, they received the TV Land Award for Pop Culture Award at the 7th annual TV Land event. At the 45th annual Daytime Emmy Awards, they won the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2018, and then in 2020, they got the I guess they're still on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for the television. And again, there's just another list of the Croft Super Show, which came out in 1976, of course, included Captain Cool and the Kongs, Dr. Shrinker, Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, Wonderbug, Magic Mongo, and then Bigfoot and Wild Boy. The Brady Bunch Hour, which I happened to allude to earlier, and Donnie and Marie, the Osmond Family Show, also the Lost Saucer, Far Out Space Nuts. Anyways, all right. So, anyways, that's what we got for you. Well, that's all in that from that. So, hopefully, for some, well, I don't know if any of you had ever had a chance to watch those classics from the 70s. Quite some surreal stuff. But for those of you who have, I'm sure you might have some interesting memories, if not all positive, but depending on what your take on the shows were. But anyways, with that being said, now we're going to go ahead and move on to the wrestling wrap-up, as we're going to, of course, look back to last night's stuff from, like, WWE Evolve, AEW's Dynamite, and look ahead to tonight's Impact, as on last night's stuff, so... First off, looking back to last night's WWE Evolve, coming from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, airing on Tubi with Blake Howard and Peter Rosenberg on commentary. Opening match saw a tag team match in which the team of Cam Hendricks and Harley Reagans defeated the team of Luica Crucifino and Tate Wilder in 8 minutes, 8 seconds. Callie Armstrong defeated Layla Diggs in a one-on-one matchup in just under 2 minutes. And in a bull rope match, Brooks Jensen defeated Cappuccino Jones. So that happened on last night's episode of Evolve. Also, some news just came out that as he's continuing his recovery from his neck surgery, I believe Kevin Owens will now be a mentor on the upcoming LFG, so he's one of the cast members cast for the LFG, the Legends and Future Greats streaming program that WWE's been out with. Continue on here. We get ready to move on to the next piece of. We get ready to go ahead and talk more about what happened on last night's wrestling. We're now going to move ahead to last night's Dynamite. As AEW Dynamite came from the Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Portland, Oregon on TBS with Excalibur, Nigel McGuinness, Tony Schiavone on commentary, and Don Callis joining them at some point later in the show. The show opened up with a confrontation between TNT champion Kevin Knight and two-time former AEW World Champion Maxwell MJF, who came out and basically challenged Kevin Knight to a title match. Kevin Knight pretty much was about ready to give it to him, but then MJF just crawled out of the ring and said, no, this is happening next week. So anyways, an interesting way to build a match for the following week. But anyways, then the official first match of the evening on last night's show then happened between Brody King and Lio Rush. So I guess they decided to split Lio Rush and Action Andretti. That team is no longer teaming together. Lio Rush has basically taken on a new look in which he's just wearing black tights, black trunks with black knee pads and he shaved his head. So, he's calling himself the Blackheart and basically going with somebody's like had some kind of psychotic breakdown or something like that. But Brody King was eventually able to defeat him in 9 minutes, just under 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 53 seconds, finishing him off with the Gonzo Bomb to finish him off. Then you had a segment, kind of a backstage segment with Adam Copeland, who basically once again challenged FTR for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, basically putting his and Christian's career as a team on the line, as basically saying that if he and Christian Cage did not win the AEW World Tag Team titles, then that would end their tag team career. They would split up as a team for good. Kind of a similar thing that happened with SoCal Underground, SoCal Uncensored a few years ago, of Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky. So then the next match you had was a women's match between Hikaru Shida and Mina Shirakawa, in which, of course, Hikaru Shida had Chris Statlander in her corner, as, of course, Shida and Statlander had been tagging in recent weeks. And Shida defeated Mina Shirakawa. Hikaru Shida defeated Mina Shirakawa in 11 minutes, 49 seconds. As apparently the frustrations of some of Mina's struggles have started to shine through, and Shida was going to her corner where her kendo stick was. Mina went over there and picked up the kendo stick before Shida could get to it. Was apparently gonna use it on her but that's when Chris Statlander got on the apron, took the kendo stick away from Mina, and Shida was able to hit the Falcon Arrow on Mina Shirakawa to get the pinfall. Then you had the next match you had was Mark Davis defeating Will Ospreay by referee's decision in 15 minutes 36 seconds after hitting him with numerous pile drivers. The ringside physician, of course, had basically deemed Ospreay unable to continue. Then there's one of the other things that came out from this match is afterwards, of course, Davis was continuing his assault on his former United Empire stablemate at Don Callis' behest until the Death Riders came out and basically saved Ospreay from further harm as they got Davis to back off and then essentially abducted Will Ospreay. So at Jon Moxley's behest, Claudio Castagnoli, Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta, and Marina Shafir basically carried Will Ospreay out of the arena through the crowd. Then of course you had a couple of segments back to back in which Chris Jericho had been confronted by the Demand, Ricochet, the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan, and Toa Leona, who basically they challenged him to a match, to a 6-man match with Ricochet saying, well, you can't get anybody to fight us. And later on it was proven that Chris Jericho could, as he basically bought the services of the Hurt Syndicate for the match. And then Samoa Joe made his in-ring return to AEW, squashing Cody Chun in 2 minutes 39 seconds. And then prior to the main event, MJF came out to demand that Darby Allin give him back his title, only for Darby Allin is in essence telling him to go take a flying leap and call out that night's schedule, his scheduled opponent for that night, Tommaso Ciampa, in which Darby Allin retained the title over Ciampa in 18 minutes 1 second, with Darby more or less getting the submission victory with the Scorpion Deathlock. And then after the match, they showed mutual respect for each other by shaking each other's hands. So that's all that happened on last night's Dynamite, of course. Now looking ahead to tonight's TNA Impact. Looking ahead to tonight's TNA Impact, coming from the Upstate Medical University Arena at the One Center War Memorial in Syracuse, New York, on AMC with Matthew Rainwalt and Tom Hannafin on commentary. Nick Nemeth is set to take on Bear Bronson of the System, accompanied to the ring by Alicia and Eddie Edwards, Cedric Alexander, and Ryan Myers. Matt Hardy is set to take on Dutch, and Mike Santana defends the TNA World Title against Rich Swann. All right, so that's all we got for the wrestling wrap up for you guys. So now, with today, of course, being Thursday, April 23rd, 2026, let's go ahead and take a look back at this date in Nietzsche's history. So 1997, 86, let's see, 2021, I believe, right? Yep, 2021 and 2016. All right. So the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to actually wish a happy 40th birthday to two-time TNA World Tag Team Champion Jesse Goddard, celebrating his 40th birthday today. Also known as Mr. Spectacular, as he likes to be called, is an American actor and professional wrestler. Previously signed to Impact Wrestling. He is a former two-time TNA World Tag Team Champion with Robbie E. as Bromans. Also, Goddard's trained TNA's developmental territory, Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, where he's a five-time OVW Southern Tag Team Champion and one-time OVW television champion. He has also appeared as a contestant on 2 seasons of the reality competition Big Brother. There you go. Happy 40th birthday to two-time TNA World Tag Team Champion Jesse Goddard. Now, moving ahead to the year 1997, 29 years ago today, on this date in 1997, 29 years ago today, the a book that probably one of the longest runs of any comic book in history. The 1040th issue of 2000 AD from Fleetway UK went on sale on this date back in 1997. It sold for £1.10. I'm thinking that's what their change is over there. 32 pages. So on this date back in 1997, 29 years ago today, the 1040th issue of 2000 AD from Fleetwood, UK went on sale on this date back in 1997. So with that being said, now moving on to, of course, the next piece in each history. We move ahead to the year 2016, 10 years ago today. On this date, 10 years ago today, back in 2016, Gallup's Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side of Dimensions and Qualia Animations Zudo Mai Kara Suki Deshita Koku Haku Jiko Linkai both premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in the year 2016. So 10 years ago today, Gallup, Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side of Dimensions, and Qualia Animation Zudo Mai Kera Suki Deshita or Deshita Koku Haku Jiko Linkai premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 2016, 10 years ago today. And finally, on this date in the year 2021, as soon as I bring that up, this date, premiering in the United States, Columbia Pictures and Sony Pictures Animations, The Mitchells versus the Machines, premiered in the United States on this date back in 2021, 5 years ago today. The Mitchells vs. Machine is a 2021 animated science fiction comedy film. Directed by Mike Rianda. And one of the things I read was I believe this was his debut as a director, who co-wrote the screenplay with Jeff Rowe, produced by Columbia Pictures and Sony Pictures Animation in association with Lord Miller Productions and One Quill Films. The film stars the voices of Danny McBride, Abby Jacobson, Maya Rudolph, Rianda, Eric Andre, and Olivia Colman, with Fred Armisen, Beck Bennett, John Legend, Chrissy Teigen, Lo Motuk, Blake Griffin, Conan O'Brien, and Doug the Pug in supporting roles. The story follows a dysfunctional Mitchell family who must save Earth from the global uprising of robots. Alrighty then, so there we go with that. I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. Hope you guys found it informative and entertaining. Of course, we'll be back with more Niche News tomorrow. Also, don't forget that Sunday I'll be joined by Sabrina from Devil Fly Momentum as we take another trip down Comic History Lane. We'll be focusing in on books that went on sale from Novelty Press on Sunday, Target Comics #9, and Blue Bolt #5. With that being said, I thank you all for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here on Sunday, or on tomorrow. Bye.